Matt lives 3 blocks away. So we live in Brooklyn, and it's an interesting neighborhood. It's a little problematic at times, to say the least, but there are a lot of writers in our neighborhood, and when I realized Matt was there, I lost my mind. So he doesn't come over my house nearly enough. And now he has the most amazing daughter. Have y'all seen pictures of her? Oh my, she's a total snatcher. So, I'm so happy to be here, even though I'm losing my voice. I think what Matt just said was amazing. And just the aspect of humanity and literature and how kids connect to that, how we have, that's what they find as the universal. And I was thinking about talking about multicultural literature and how, and what we bring to the dialogue. I think one of the things I'm thinking about this week, because of a lot of stuff that's going on in the atmosphere, is the threat, how people feel threatened that the publication, that the employment, that any kind of change reflecting race and economic class and social construct is going to maybe erase the culture that is in place. And I think that fear is what has constantly stopped us from changing and moving forward and figuring out that this literature is valid and necessary and part of a greater good and a bigger landscape. That historically, being young people, having to read books that didn't reflect us at all was something dangerous, because if we don't see ourselves in the literature, then who are we and where are we? And how do we go forward? So this is from Brown Girl Dreaming, and it's called Stevie and Me. And Brown Girl Dreaming, as you know, as some of you may know, is a memoir. Every Monday, my mother takes us to the library around the corner. We are allowed to take out 7 books each. On those days, no one complains that all I want are picture books. Those days, no one tells me to read faster, to read harder books, to read like Dell. No one is there to say, not that book, when I stop in front of a small paperback with a brown boy on the cover, Stevie. I read, one day my mama told me, you know you're gonna have a little friend come stay with you, and I said, who is it? If someone had been there fussing with me to read like my sister, I might have missed the picture book filled with brown people, more brown people than I'd ever seen in a book before. The little boy's name was Stephen, but his mother kept calling him Stevie. My name is Robert, but my mama don't call me Roberty. If someone had taken that book out of my hand and said, you're too old for this, maybe I'd never have believed that someone who looked like me could be in the pages of the book, that someone who looked like me had a story. So to echo what Matt was saying about meeting Maya Angelou, I met her under completely different circumstances. I met her at a party. And by that time I had known her, of her work, for a very, very long time. And I didn't know until I was an adult how much of an impact her voice in the world had on me and so many people like me telling stories. And we don't know that absence is there until it's filled. And so when I was writing Hush, one of the things I was talking about was identity politics. And I kept saying, if someone takes your name away, who do you become? If I wake up tomorrow morning and I can't be Jacqueline Woodson, who am I? And what does that mean? And the universality there is that it's every adolescent's story. You know, every adolescent walks into a classroom and wants to be someone different, wants to move away from all the ways that they've been named by their parents, by society, by whatever the construct. And so Taswia has that literal experience where she has to completely change her identity and wake up and be someone new, and then figuring out who she is. And I think in terms of talking about race and multiculturalism, it's so important that we think about qualifiers and what we're bringing to the conversation and our own prejudices. I find so often people will refer to a book, well, this is about an African-American girl, or this is about a Mexican boy. And sometimes that language is necessary, and a lot of times it is not, because we don't usually say, well, this book is about a white boy who lives here, or this book is about a middle-class white girl who, is writing letters to God. It just is, and it's not until it becomes it becomes something that's outside of that white middle-class construct that it becomes qualified. And I think it's really important to start listening to the way we speak about race and socioeconomic class and gender and sexuality, all of these things, because whatever is in our mind that feels outside and other becomes the thing we project to our students. We ask them to look at. So in thinking about Hush, there are two girls, and yes, they are Black, and yes, they are middle class, and yes, they are girls, and yes, they are human beings, and everything I write starts from that same place that Matt talks about, which is the heart, and from the heart it goes out into all of the other places, but that's the place where the kids connect and see the part that's so much like them.